It's a journalistic genre that didn't even exist a decade ago. A reporter dives into a subject's social media accounts only to find questionable comments or worse. But in the latest high-profile case, the backlash didn't play out quite like you'd expect. Adam Riley has more.
At first, Carson King was just another face in the crowd during ESPN's College Game Day, until this sign asking people to Venmo him beer money went viral.
And now we are joined by the man himself, Carson King. Carson, welcome to the show.
Why the adulation? After the donations started pouring in, King announced that he'd keep enough money for one case of beer and give the rest to the Children's Hospital at the University of Iowa.
Anything you can do to help the kids, you have to do.
But then the narrative shifted after a Des Moines Register reporter dug into King's Twitter account and discovered two racist jokes made 7 years ago when he was in high school.
Carson addressed the tweet that referenced dialogue from a Tosh.0 television comedy series.
When I went back and looked at it, I was really upset with myself.
So was Anheuser-Busch, which promptly cut ties with King's campaign. Then another twist. Turns out that Des Moines Register reporter had his own issues on Twitter, where he used a racist slur for black people, made light of abusing women, used the word gay as a pejorative, and mocked same-sex marriage. Now he is out of a job, and the Register is playing defense.
The editor of the paper released a statement saying that they thought that they were being transparent about what they found on social media.
But maybe transparency alone isn't enough.
Being transparent about what they found. What are they even looking for it at this point? It was, a feel-good story. I mean, and going back for somebody who's a kid, I recognize that they were horrible comments, but and then the guy gets his own comeuppance. He didn't know that he had written things himself when he was 10 years younger?
This guy gets a pass for things that he did, even if ill-advised when he was 16. The thing about social media, one of the things about social media, is that even comedians get in trouble for what they're saying, and now everyone's trying to be a comedian, and they're all getting in trouble for crossing the line. I tell my kids, everything you write or say online can be seen by everyone forever, and you have to remember that. And that's, unfortunately the world we live in, because someone's going to go back and find your tweet. But does that mean the newspaper should be digging back and doing it? No.
That's the best thing about this story, is the cautionary tale that it holds for all journalists and for anybody who's being interviewed and anybody who's on the press. Or anybody who appears in the press. It's not the best message we need to take out of this. But I think the argument that was made at the Register was that this guy was, and Anheuser-Busch and others, were collecting money, were soliciting contributions, and at that point, when it became a big money, what they talking about, $1 million or something like that, when it became a big money deal, then all of a sudden that kind of changed the nature of knowing about who's asking for the money. Now, I wouldn't have done that myself as a reporter. I wouldn't have gone into that, but I can understand why the research was done on him. And I can understand why there would have been a discussion in the newsroom. That's another good thing, is it shows that newsrooms are hashing this out, even if they make the wrong call.
Never tweet.
You should talk.
Yeah, I know, believe me. I don't understand why this reporter was rooting around in what this guy tweeted when he was a teenager. That doesn't really make any sense to me, why that would be something that you would want to do for what really is just a feel-good story. And then to be reporting it when you've got skeletons in your own closet just really compounds this. I just find the whole thing very strange, and I didn't think that the editor's explanation as to why they were using these old tweets made an awful lot of sense.
By the way, Callie, the campaign goes on without Anheuser-Busch. He's now well over $1 million. His success continues, so while he's still flying high, the reporter is out of a job.
That is true. Now, I have to say, I don't think rooting around is the correct terminology. He's 24 years old. He did it when he was 16. That's not that far back. If you're writing it's not. It is not. If you're writing a story about who is this guy, and how many times have we been...
a year earlier, I would say, okay, or 6 months earlier. 16, though, who has good judgment at 16? I shudder to think.
That's a different issue. You asked, the question was, should he have been rooting around? And I'm saying he's not rooting around. If the guy's 16, he's now 24. It's not that long ago. So that's the first thing I want to say. Now, I give him credit, Carson King, for coming out when he was called about it and saying, I don't even recognize myself from then. Let me say, I think this is horrific. And I think he was sincere, personally. But as somebody who's with a group that people are always making these kinds of comments on, whether they're young or old, I really am just not feeling a great amount of compassion then about people saying, oh, he was 16, let him be okay about it. No, it's not okay. He needs to understand what the meaning is. Again, he came out, addressed that. I give him credit for that. Now, should the guy have been fired? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems a little, and particularly since he's got some issues of his own that to be dealt with. But I don't see anything wrong in this day and age when somebody like him lives on social media. And by the way, the whole Venmo thing is, internet-based. So the story is, who is he? It's not unusual for anybody to look back and see. I'm just saying. There are many shades to this that I just want it to be equal. I mentioned today when I was talking to Jim and Marjorie earlier on Boston Public Radio, when Michael Brown was killed and his body left in the street, the New York Times went back and found everything that they could find on him, and that was the story. Not that he had been killed unarmed in the streets of St. Louis, Ferguson. So I'm just saying that stuff comes back. However, it ends up in stories. Nobody said that was rooting around. People were upset about it. So these are conversations, to your point, Roy, that we need to be having in newsrooms about how we're going to handle this material.
And there's nothing wrong with doing the research. That's not the problem. And this is only 8 years in his life that you want to see about.